Hi, I'm Rick Harsh. I am the chief editor of Press, a small nonprofit press in Slovenia. I'm also the author of The Manifold Destiny of Eddie Vegas, Voices After Evelyn, and many other books, the Trilogy, Skulls of Istria, and so on. But the only thing that's going to come into play today is the press, but not so much, because this is my version, my list of books that should be in the top 20, but won't be in any of them. So I'm going to start out by going without notes, because I had to write a list, so I have notes. But I looked on my shelves, and I found one that I just thought of today. I made the list last night, but then I remembered Far Tortuga by Peter Matthewson. This will never be in anybody's top 20, and it should be in lots of top 20s. So, Far Tortuga, definitely a top 20 book of all time. Then we have this. Let's get my books out of the way. My books in the sense that they're Corona Samizdat publications. Chandler Broussard's Wake Up, We're Almost There, and As the Wolf Howls at My Door. Why are these top 20 books? Well, okay, they're big, but there's a lot of very, very big books out there. And but in literature, there is nothing from the 70s to the end of the century quite like Chandler Broussard. Absolutely madcap, genius, politically subversive, culturally subversive. These are books that are extremely funny and creative on a page-to-page level in ways that you've never seen before. And he also combines, better than anyone I know since Henry Miller, the high, the medium, the low, everything. This guy was a mad genius. And both of these books should be in the top 20 books of all time. A lot of you are going to be saying, well, since you're on your own books, what about America and the Cult of the Cactus Boots, a diagnostic? Well, that's already in some top 20 lists, so it's not going to be on the list of 20 books that should not be overlooked. But Roberto Arlt's The Flamethrowers, which is the second half of his novel, The Seven Madmen and the Flamethrowers, that's one novel. This should be. We only have this. We're going to put out the whole thing later on this year. But Roberto Arlt is one of those people who everybody in South America knows. Probably everybody who reads Spanish knows, literature anyway, and is no less worthy than Borges, but is much, much different from Borges. And this novel, written in 29 and 31, 19, is one of the best books ever written. And so it makes the list. Now I have to get to my notes. I may be rushing a little bit because I want to get this done within 15 minutes. So, Kurt Vonnegut, how many books of his will be on top 20 lists? Slaughterhouse-Five? Okay. But what about... all right, never mind. Kurt Vonnegut, we'll throw him out. We don't need him. We got enough. But how about John Dos Passos in the USA Trilogy? Have any of you read that? It's an extraordinary book of a collage sort, and was written in the 1920s, I believe. And it's one of the best books about the United States ever written. We've got Juan Carlos Onetti. He's less and less remembered in the non-Spanish speaking world, but A Brief Life by Juan Carlos Onetti should be in any top 20 list. Now here's one of my favorites, Guimarães Rosa of Brazil. There's some guy on who with something called Invisible Books has called this an invisible book. Well, I read it 30 years ago, and it was in my hands. It was tactile. It was visible, and I read the whole thing. And it wasn't hard to come across because it's one of Brazil's great novels. And so sometimes you have to take with a grain of salt things like grains of salt. But another thing you have to do is, in the grain of salt vein, is, say, well, it may be invisible to you, but who the hell are you? I mean, this is not an invisible book. It's just not one that's been, well, let me compare it to a book. There's Blaise Cendrars. He's got a short novel called, in the latest translation, I didn't tell you the name of the Rosa book. It's called Devil to Pay in the Backlands, which is a horrible translation, but it's still the same book. And the reason I thought of that is because Cendrars, his book that should be in the top 20, if I had to choose one, is not Moravagine. It's a book that's been translated as Naples. The title of the book is Genoa. The translator decided to change it to Naples. But that's not an invisible book. A lot of people know about Cendrars. It's just that, they come in print, they go out of print. They come in print, they go out of print. But that's the fate of most of us. And too many of us, I guess. All About H. Hatter by G.V. Dasani is another one. We have two Indians on the list, and that's because I made the list in about 15 minutes, so I probably left out a lot of things. I didn't put in the Tin Drum, because that probably does make some lists, but I didn't even think of it. Or Billiards at 9:30 by Heinrich Boll. Didn't think of it. But All About H. Hatter by G.V. Dasani. Tremendous and very funny and inventive book. O.V. Vijayan, who is a Malayali speaker from Kerala. The Legends of Kasak. Another book that should be there. But I see that I'm over halfway already in my time. So Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. I think it's not going to make any top 20 lists, and it should be about anywhere from 9 to 13, I think. So I guess this is just a list of informative list of books. Henry Miller, Tropic of Cancer, is probably not going to make top 20 lists, but it should. John Cowper Powys. Which one? Well, probably Glastonbury Romance, but I haven't read that. Porteous, I haven't finished that. So, John Cowper Powys, you decide. There's another one that I have read, and I've read several times, and he's extraordinary at bringing nature into his book and making of nature something exciting, glorious, whatever. But he doesn't. But he's not one of these la-di-da types. No, not at all. He's a very complex, dark and light soul. When he's light, he's really radiant, and when he's dark, he's dark. So, Joseph Conrad, Lord Jim. Heart of Darkness is already there in most cases, but Lord Jim should be there. Flann O'Brien. I thought of the Irish guys, and I think Enough Beckett probably makes it, and maybe At Swim Two Birds by Flannery O'Brien. But The Third Policeman, does that make it? Should. Okay, Dasha Dunditch. I chose speaking of bad translations, a book that's translated as Trieste, her very ironic title was Sunshine. And, she's a very, very dark and penetrating soul who writes historical recent history to pitiless effect, and you'll never put one of her books down and say that was fun, but you will be moved, and that probably should already have happened when you read Dobrica Ćosić. I can't give you the title. It's a 4-volume book by the Serbian writer Dobrica Ćosić. And the reason I can't give you the title is because in English it's published in 4 volumes. It might have been in Serbian also. But it has titles like Land and Freedom, very banal titles. But I read it one summer and thought, my God, I better read War and Peace. And I did. I read War and Peace, and I thought, my God, Dobrica Ćosić is so much better. That I could do a whole show on that, but who wants to see that or hear that? This is just a list. Okay. Pedro Paramo, Juan Rulfo, Max Frisch. Anybody remember Max Frisch? Another translation. The book is called Stiller, and in English the translation is I'm Not Stiller. Stiller. Sadegh Hedayat, The Blind Owl. A lot of people have heard of him, so don't call it an invisible novel. It's actually the height of arrogance to say okay, invisible novel. Seshu Foster's Atomic Aztecs. That's the last one I actually wrote down. Atomic Aztecs is going to go down as one of the best books of the 20th century, and perhaps it's the story of it's speculative fiction. I don't know what you'd call it really, but it's hard realism mixed with an absurd premise that the Mayans defeated the Spanish. But he takes the current economic and social situation in the United States and puts his people, his characters, his Mayan characters there. He also sends them to Stalingrad, and it's one of the best accounts of Stalingrad I've ever read, even though it's a bunch of Mayans running around fighting there, but the descriptive writing is fantastic. So, did I go too fast? Is there anything else you want to know? We got over a minute. Broussard, too hard to describe. Arlt, I think what makes Arlt's books, an invisible author, Antonio Lobo Antunes. Is he invisible? I don't know. I've seen a lot of pictures of him. They must be fakes. But Fado Alexandrino should be in any top 20, just like Berlin Alexanderplatz. But Berlin Alexanderplatz by Dublin will probably make a lot of them. I don't know if Antonio Lobo Antunes will, but if he does with Fado Alexandrino, you can throw the Ass of Judas in there as well. So, all right, I did it in 15 minutes and 14 seconds, or 14 minutes and 25 seconds, or anyway, under 15 minutes, which is what I wanted to do. These are books that should all be in the top 20, but will never be, is my guess. But not because they're invisible. Jesus. I don't know about it, so it doesn't exist. Wuthering Heights, never heard of it.